Hi, everyone. I am Heather, and I want to welcome you to Magnificent Authors Podcast, brought to you by Magnificent Mamas. This is the show where we'll celebrate the magic of storytelling and the power of words. I'm your host, Heather, and each week I'll be sitting down with incredible authors from all walks of life to explore their creative journeys, uncover their writing secrets, and delve into worlds they create. Whether you are an aspiring writer, a passionate reader, or simply curious about the minds behind your favorite books, this is the podcast for you. So grab a cozy blanket, pour yourself a cup of tea, and get ready to be inspired by the magnificent authors who join us. Let's dive in. Hi, everyone. I am Heather with Magnificent Mamas and Magnificent Authors Podcast. We're joined here today with author Eve Lackman. Is that right?
That's right.
All right. Eve, welcome. And do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. Thank you, Heather. My name is Eve, and I'm the author of the Penny and Musical series, the first book, Penny Makes a Friend. I also have an educational coloring book that I created on Amazon, and I'm in the process of creating more coloring books and continuing the Penny and Musical series with other books as well.
That's awesome. How long have you been interested in writing for?
I think I've been interested in writing since I started reading or having a love for books. And I think at some point in my life, I, thought of being an author, a published author, but instead just went about my life and did other things. And last year, I decided to go for it. And I created the Penny and Musical series. And really, it just came from my heart. It's loosely based on my childhood, but there was no script. I just wrote, and it turned into a beautiful series.
That's awesome. I can never do the planning out like that. Like, I just write. So
Yeah.
it's always interesting to see if people plan and outline it all or just write. So, what message do you hope children take away from your book?
So the message really is that it's okay to be different. It's okay to be shy. It's okay to be awkward. It's okay to look different. It's okay to like things your friends don't, because you'll always find those people that do like those things that you do. And that's why I wrote the series, because I think there's such a need to put it out there and for parents to encourage their kids not to follow, but to be their own person and to embrace who they are. I found that when I was younger, I lost myself, and I might not have known who I was or lost who I was because I wanted to fit in.
Yep.
And over the years, I fit in, I didn't fit in, I had my ups and downs, and as I got older and became an adult, it is different. But still, you do have those moments where you feel that you don't fit in or that you are different or awkward. And I just started to really embrace that and to accept everything. And if I like things that my friends don't, that's okay, because we still have things in common. We're still friends. And if I have friends that don't like anything I do, well, then it's time to find different
New
friends. Because that means, you're not really connected to those people. Over the years, I've lost friendships because we've grown apart. And that's what this book is all about, that it's just really, it's okay. And Penny finds a magical bear, doesn't realize he's magical at first. And he's the one that helps her get over her shyness, build her confidence, helps her be brave. And this is a bear I had growing up, Musical. That's his real name. And I still have him. And he was my best friend growing up, along with all the other stuffed animals I had. And I just built on that. I had a lot of stuffed animals, and they were my safety. They were the ones that made me feel good about myself, that didn't judge, of course. And that
Right.
just made me happy.
Yeah. I think the way that you're putting that, where, we all feel different and we all are different, but it's so relatable even as an adult because, you know, I could understand feeling, different than all my friends, or something like having toys that they didn't like anymore, or, Barbies when my friends didn't want to play Barbies anymore, but I still did. Dressing different, you know, I'm a total nerd and I hid that forever. Like my favorite movie is
So do
Star
I.
Wars, and I have Star Wars decorations over here. My husband's got his Dragon Ball Z decorations. We totally have a nerdy room. And, you know, finding who I was and embracing it, I just love it and love your message as well.
Thank you. Yeah, I also realized I'm a little bit nerdy and quirky, and
That's
I'm okay with
awesome.
that. A lot of people, my friends, don't even know or didn't know that I love reading. And they would say to me, "You read books?" I'm like, "Yeah, I read books. I read a lot." It's just not something I ever really shared.
Yeah. What was your favorite book from childhood?
Um, I don't know if I necessarily had a favorite, but my favorite author was Judy Blume. And I had every single one of her books. Um, and every time a new book came out, my dad would get it for me. At the same time, at any time a new stuffed animal came to the store in where he worked, he would get it for me. So I was
Awesome.
surrounded by books and stuffed animals. And by the time I was 12, I was actually reading books I shouldn't have been reading because my mom was an avid reader. So I was reading Danielle Steele, Jackie Collins, if you remember those, and just adult novels that for a
Yeah.
12-year-old, I really shouldn't have, but my mom had a closet full of books. And I would just go sneak in there. Sydney, what's his name? Sydney Sheldon, I believe. Um,
Mhm.
so I would sneak in, and I would sneak in the closet, get a book, read read it when she was not around, put it back in the closet so she didn't know I read it. And
That's
as I
awesome.
got older, when books were on her night table, her dresser, I would grab those and read those and then put it back so she wouldn't know that I read them. And over the years, we ended up talking about the books that we've read because I was reading adult books at a young age.
Yeah. Sorry. I don't know why that does that. Um, okay, what was I gonna say? What was the most challenging part of writing your book?
Hmm. To be honest, I'm not sure if there was one because it really just came from the heart. It just lights me up when I talk about it because the
I can
story
tell
is
you're
so,
smiling and
yeah, it's just a
you
story
look really happy.
that's part of me. It's like I had this teddy bear growing up. So I had him since I was a year old. He went everywhere with me. And like I said, I grew the collection, had tons of stuffed animals. They all had names, they all had personalities. So the books are just from my childhood and my imagination as well. Like in the books, I give them personalities. There's always a lesson to be learned. Each stuffed animal has their own personality. In book 2, you meet Duncan, the naughty puppy.
Oh no.
So, he's always getting into trouble. In some ways, you could say he might have ADHD because he
Oh yeah.
can't sit still. So it's how they come together, how musical kind of takes him under his wing and tries to teach him, be a good puppy, sit still, listen sometimes. So they go on adventures. There's always an adventure, and there's always a life lesson. And it wasn't even planned that way. It just came out that way. Because like I said, it was all from the heart, all from my experiences. It's loosely based on my childhood, and just I wanted them to be fun. I wanted kids to also use their imagination, explore their imagination, let them know it's okay to have a favorite toy, stuffed animal, something that you hang on to, something that's special to you. It's okay to dream. It's okay to think that you're an astronaut flying into space and that you might have done that after school. These things all, I find, really unleash your creativity and help you become more creative and more, I don't know, maybe more authentic, more interesting. So I don't know what the hard part was. It's just everyone, they just flowed. I wrote 5 books so far.
Oh, wow.
They're not 6, actually. They're slowly being illustrated and published one after the other. So it'll take a while.
Do you have the same illustrator for all of them?
Not sure. It's a possibility. So working on book 2, and we'll have to see. I'm hoping to keep the same illustrator because that would be amazing. But I can't say for sure yet. That's fine. So if there's any illustrators out there and you want to send me your information, I'm open to it. Nice. So I think the hard part was working with the illustrator to recreate Penny, to have
the way you see her.
Yeah, and to have her sort of look like me as a kid in a loose way, not exact, but because the books are, like I said, loosely based on my childhood about me, and they're very personal, and I just want kids to enjoy them. I want parents to read them to their kids every night. I want their kids, which I've had a few parents say to me, my kid keeps on asking me to read her the musical story. And I'm like, that is so sweet to hear. That is exactly what I want to hear. That's how I was.
That'll make you feel so good.
It does. And that's why the books were created, were to just put them out there and share with the world and let parents know that, you know what, if you do have a shy kid, if your kid is a little different, don't freak out. Don't worry about it. It's as long as they're healthy, happy, they'll overcome it. They'll overcome it. They'll get over it. They just need some extra attention. And they might need some, you might have to sit down with them and get to know them a little better to find out maybe why they're shy, what's causing their shyness, and have them open up, make them feel safe, that it's okay to speak up. It's okay to use their voice. And like I said, when I was a child, I was really shy. At home, I was loud and obnoxious. And in public, going other places, my mom would always tell me that people would say to her, your children are so well behaved. And my mom would be, you mean my children? Like, you're talking about my kids?
Are you talking about the same kids that go home with me?
Exactly. Because, when I was around people I didn't know, I didn't feel comfortable. I didn't feel able to speak up, to say what I liked, didn't like, what I wanted or didn't want. I didn't feel comfortable raising my hand in class. Because I do remember sometimes raising my hand, and if I got the answer wrong, well, then I'd blush, want to cry. And kids are kids, they laugh at you for getting the answer wrong. So I sit quietly, mind my own business, doodle, and still managed to get good grades.
Nice. So you mentioned a coloring book. Can you tell us more about that?
Yes. So I created an educational coloring book, which has ABCs in it, numbers, and shapes. So, and
Okay.
it's also a bit of it's a coloring. It's called the Big Fun Coloring and Activity Book. So you learn to draw the alphabet in upper and lowercase letters. And then there's pictures corresponding to those letters in the alphabet. Then same thing with numbers, counting, drawing pictures, tracing the numbers. And then there's some activities to reinforce the learning of the alphabet and the numbers. And then there's shapes, learning some different shapes, and a little activity to find the different shapes, the ones that match, that are the
Nice.
same. So it's also been doing very well. My books are on Amazon. Don't have an ebook yet or hardcover, just soft cover on anywhere on Amazon. And I've
Yeah.
also had some good feedback from the coloring book that it helped their kids learn to read a bit, learn how to write as well. So
It's awesome.
it's just really good to hear that really when you really do what feels right and do it from your heart and do it without expecting anything, when you put it out there because you just feel good about it, it ends up really being good.
That's wonderful. And I think we all need to hear stuff like that sometimes. Okay,
For
I'm going to
sure.
ask you a weird question, okay?
Sure.
And the reason I'm asking is because your stuff is geared more towards children.
Mhm.
So, if you could have any superpower, what would it be and why?
Mm, I think I would like to know what people are thinking. I would like that
That'd be
superpower.
crazy.
What?
I said that'd be crazy.
That
That'd
would
be
be
wild.
fun. Yeah. I think that would be cool. That would be uh there'd be no surprises, I guess.
No?
And I think as an adult, I would be able to help more people if I knew what they were thinking. If I knew what kids were thinking all the time, if I could read their minds, even adults know what they're thinking,
Yeah.
I think it would help me be a different person, or would help me understand people more, and maybe even be a better person in some way, be more empathetic, sympathetic,
Yeah.
more caring. I don't know.
Something we need in the world.
Yeah, it's a lot of people these days. It's all for them and not for anyone else. So, not that I'm not caring or sympathetic or empathetic, but I think just knowing what's in their heads, because I don't know about you, Heather, but sometimes when someone doesn't call me back, my mind goes into, why aren't they calling me back? What did I say? Something? Did I do something? Was it me?
Yep.
And then I have to take a step back and say, wait a second. People have lives. They have things going on in their lives. And maybe
Yeah.
they're not calling you back because they're just too busy and they don't have time to chit chat. Because if it was something important, I might say, hey, I really need to speak to you. It's important. And then, I would get a call back. So sometimes I even have insecurities like that about friendship and stuff, because people
Yeah.
really
I'm
add
kind
up.
of dealing with a similar situation right now. So I get it.
Yeah. So I think if I was able to read people's minds, then I might not have certain insecurities.
Yeah. What's the silliest thing that ever happened to you while writing?
Hmm. Hmm.
Kind of a different
Silliest
question.
thing. Silliest thing. I really can't think of anything off the top of my head. Um, hmm. Because I started writing some time ago, but I'm more focused on the Penny and Musical series, is
Mhm.
an adult book. And
Okay.
that one, probably will have a pen name just because not the conflict of
Yeah.
kids books and adults book. And so the adult book it's called Flings, and I called it Flings because it's a book of short stories. And the short stories are just, once again, either from my imagination, what I just thought of writing one day, or experiences that I've had throughout my life, mostly in my young adult or adult life, and
Yeah.
also with messages to encourage people to open up. So that message is always there. So the silliest or weirdest or strangest thing is sometimes I've looked back on the stories I've written and it's like, did I actually write that? And that did happen when I put one of the stories in Flings. I read this story, I'm like, huh, that's a pretty good story. And I'm like, wait a second, did I write this? Did I maybe copy it from someone to get an idea? And I look back at my notes and I wrote it. And I'm like, that's a good story. so
Nice.
so I think sometimes I forget what I write, or at that time forgot certain things that I wrote, and then realized looking back, like going through them, like this is a good story. And that also kind of gives me the confidence to continue writing. Because if I'm looking at something and saying it's good and don't even know if I wrote it or not, to me,
Yeah.
that's a sign that you're on the right path.
I did that NaNoWriMo challenge in November, and
Mm-hmm.
you have to write like 50,000 words. And last year I didn't finish it. This year I did. And my daughter reads everything I write. And I was like, hey, wait a second, who's here? Or something like that. And she's like, hey, I know who it is and where they're at and stuff like that. It's so funny because like I'll forget something. And instead of looking through my notes looking for it, I'll just ask her because she remembers everything. And it's nice to see somebody enjoying what you write and remembering what you write. Um, who were your favorite authors growing up?
Well, I mostly read Judy Blume.
Oh yeah, did
Um,
I ask this already?
you did. Um,
Sorry. You don't have to answer. We'll cut that out. Like I said, I kind of don't go scripted, so I was kind of um
I can tell you in high school, I don't know what kind of English class I was in, but I didn't get to read those classics like what's it called? Fahrenheit
mhm.
541 or something like that. I read some Shakespeare, which wasn't interesting to me, but
No. The
um,
language is hard.
yeah, it just didn't interest me. And not part of my class, but I ended up reading Great Expectations and Catcher in the Rye. And those
I
are also
remember reading that.
two of my other favorite books once I was in high school, and didn't have to read them, read them because I wanted to. And you used to find me in the library on the weekends or in the back of the bookstore as a teenager reading books on a
Definitely.
weekend. Yeah, and I would just go to the library, and I know now it's all computerized, but I loved opening
Yeah.
those drawers, looking for the number of the book, going to the section, and then helping people find the section. I'm like, oh, I know how to find it. Like, to me, the library
Yeah.
was just a very organized place. And I would just read all kinds of books on even architecture. I
Oh
once read a
wow.
book postal codes because I was interested in knowing about postal codes.
That's a little more than I think I ever read, but I don't know. I'm really into like history and mythologies and stuff like that. I remember getting like a Greek mythology book about the gods and demigods like this thick.
Oh,
And like
wow.
I was so interested in it and like it was so funny because I was like obsessed with it at that point in time.
Did you go
But
through it all?
yeah. Yeah, it took a little while because it was different than just a regular book, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and
So
probably the terminology, the words were
yep, and
not.
I was younger, so I
Mm.
probably didn't know half of what I was reading, but it is what it is. Okay. If you had to write in a genre that you have not written in, what would it be?
Mystery,
Mystery, how come?
because it's mysterious.
Hmm.
Because um,
You got
I sometimes read mystery books,
mhm.
and I just they're page turners, and you try to figure out who did it, who's who, what's what.
Yep.
So I do on occasion read books like that. Just sometimes I get it right, and then I'm like disappointed about the book because I figured it out. And if I don't get it right, I'm like, oh, that was a good book. That was cool. So
Yeah.
I think mysteries, and I think a good mystery book will keep you guessing, will keep you turning the page. And also, there's also clues in the books. Like if you're a
Yeah.
good writer or a good reader, you'll notice clues, and that's how I figure things out. So,
Yeah.
um,
I
yeah, I think
agree.
like an Agatha Christie mystery book or something. I think that would
Yep.
be good.
That's awesome. Did you self-publish or indie or traditional?
I self-published. I almost went with a company. I actually did sign up with a company, and uh, they took the first book and destroyed it, and it crushed me. So I was able to luckily get out of that contract. So for people who want to publish a book, I recommend self-publishing. I looked into hybrid also,
Hmm.
very expensive.
That's what I heard.
Yes, I actually had a company wanting to publish the 5 or 6 books, and the cost was astronomical. It was a huge down payment on a house, or a nice car, not an average car, a nice car for all 5 books
Crazy.
though. Um, and there's no guarantees. I mean, they'll tell
Yeah.
you in some ways what you want to hear. And I'm not saying all hybrids are bad or all publishing companies are bad.
Mhm.
Um, but after my first one, I did look for another publishing company, and they publish the book, but you get like either 90 or 100% of the royalties. So they
That's
just,
not bad.
but they're not very, um, for lack of a better word, legitimate, in my opinion. I kind of found out, not the hard way, but through research, they're more like call centers. They take your books, and they just hire people all over the world to either edit them, do illustrations. They don't really have a core team of people
Yeah.
from what I found out from doing my research. Some of them don't even use their real names.
Oh
And
wow. That's kind of red flaggish.
yeah, well, the first company that I was going to do business with, some of the people weren't using their real names. And to me, that was a red flag. And I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, let's just see where this goes. And I backed out and luckily got my money back, which I've heard some
That's
people
good.
don't. And yeah, it was an educational experience. So that's when I decided, I said, you know what? I'm going to self-publish. This way I get to do what I want, how I want. And
Yeah.
I did find an editor because I wanted to be sure that I'm on the right track on Readsy. I don't know if you know that website, Readsy.
I've heard of it.
Awesome website, very professional. I would use the website and the person I used to edit my book again. And what I've noticed, a lot of self-publishers, they just find their illustrators on Fiverr or maybe Upwork and even Facebook.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so I actually found my illustrator through a friend. So
That's good.
who uses her. So that, because I did try to look on Facebook, and I just wasn't
Anymore
successful.
anymore you don't know who's real and who's not, I feel like.
Exactly. And that didn't wasn't very comfortable for me. And I've read some horror stories that people got hired and then they disappeared, or what I always do now, and this might be some good advice for self-publishers out there, is I would always ask, can we do a video call?
Yep.
And if they say yes, they're legitimate. And if they say no and give you 1,000,001 excuses, oh, I can't today, or maybe next week, or I'm not good on camera, or my camera doesn't work, those are red flags. And I've had those experiences too, with marketers approaching me, and I said, okay, let's get on a video call. Oh, I can't today, or the time difference. And then when I looked up their profiles, their new profiles that just started maybe 6 months ago, so there's that whole other, some sort of scam going on.
They can't even write like how
exactly. Yeah.
I don't know. Sure. I had this person one time. I forgot what they were trying to sell me or whatever, but they tried, like, I live in Indiana, and they tried to say that they were from I can't remember the country now, but it's a country like in Europe, but they said it was a state in the US. And I was like, I know all the states. I live here. You're mistaken. And they're like, no, it's a state. And I'm like, no, it's not a state in the US. Like, when you don't even know the lies that are coming out of your mouth, like, come on. Who's really going to fall for that?
People do. Unfortunately, some people are desperate or not educated about scams out there, even too trustworthy. Like, I want to trust people. And, when these people approached me, I'm like, okay, sure. But like I said, I always ask for a video call. Yep. And at first, this one particular marketing person was like, okay, I can't today. Let's do it tomorrow, whatever the case may be. So we actually scheduled 3 different times. And the first 2, she didn't show up, made excuses. The third time, it was someone completely different than her picture. And it was her son talking in the background. And that's when I realized what kind of scam there is in marketing too, online. So
I get that. Like,
be careful,
because I help promote authors, and people are always like, scam. And it's like, you can go on my website and see that I'm helping. You can see that I offer free stuff, which anymore you have to, because there's people out there that give, promotions and marketing a bad name.
There really, really are. And
it's like so sad.
I've had a few experiences. Luckily, I haven't lost any money in any of my experiences, just because I really no, I'm not going to do business with you unless you get on a video call with me. And I ask questions, how long have you been in business? And is this your real name? Where are you from? And just by the way they answer, you could tell if they're telling the truth or not.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Well, why is your profile new? So that was another one. Like, you have a new profile. Oh, my other one got hacked. And when you hear that 2-3 times, it's not true. Another red flag. So,
I mean, sometimes, that happens, but.
Yes. But when you hear it 2-3 times from different marketers, and you ask, those questions, and even when they're writing to you and they can't spell if their life depended on it, you're like, okay. And then they tell you, no, like their part, they have a handler or something. I've had that happen. Like, it's not
message them on Telegram,
something like that, or, well, I don't control the money. It's my handler that takes care of that. So I can't meet you on video chat. And I'm like, okay, then sorry, I'm not doing business with you. You're not real. So, and then I've had people, even like I've said, like, stop bothering me. They still send me messages like, hey, how's it going? It's like, you're not real. You're not legit. Go away. And some ways like, oh, like if they say I'm in California, what time is it there now? Even though I know, I want to see if they're going to get it right or not. Sometimes they do.
Yep. I mean, it takes just a minute to research it, but still, sometimes they don't even try.
Yeah. There are good people and there are not good people online. And it's just a matter of asking the right questions, getting references, referrals, making sure you can get that video call and checking them out online. Like, do they have a Facebook profile, Instagram, LinkedIn, website, like you said? Like, is their profile new? Or do they have a presence?
Good advice.
Yeah. How long, if you see their profile's been around for 3 years or more, whatever the case may be, and they show some family pictures and, a mix of things, they're legitimate.
Yeah.
If it's just a few posts that look very generic and there's no picture of them on their profile, beware.
Yep.
That's what I would say. Beware. Do your research.
That's wonderful advice for aspiring authors, new authors, authors getting ready to publish. Something I think a lot of people need to hear. We do have to get ready to wrap up because I have another call in about 4 minutes.
No problem.
The day this podcast airs, though, we'll be featuring your book on our social media, links to purchase, that type of thing, so everyone can check it out.
Awesome. And thank you so much for your time, Heather, and what you do. And it was great talking to you.
Thank you. It was fun, too, talking to you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure. Have a great day.
You too. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
And that's a wrap on another episode of Magnificent Authors Podcast. Thank you so much for joining me today. It was a pleasure to share another inspiring conversation with a talented author. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe to Magnificent Authors Podcast so you don't miss any of our upcoming conversations with amazing writers. And be sure to check out Magnificent Mamas on our website, which is www.magnificentmamas.us, or on our Facebook page for more inspiring content from incredible authors. I'd love to hear your thoughts on today's episode. What resonated with you the most? Head over to Facebook or leave a comment on our website and let me know. Until next time, keep reading, keep writing, and keep those imaginations soaring.